Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the BTW Podcast, Beers, Toys, Wrestling. My name is Lance Johnson. I am obviously not Nate Gleason. If you've happened to listen to the show before, I'm taking over hosting duties for the evening, but we are indeed joined by Nate Gleason.
Yo!
Wade Fry.
Yo!
And the always outspoken Dustin Hayward. Okay. So tonight we have for you a very special episode of the BTW Podcast. We're going to delve into a collector group that we don't normally delve into. Unfortunately, we were unable to get a special guest, but we will be going into Breyer model horses this evening. I promise you it's going to be more exciting and or amusing than it sounds. So what we'll do is we'll start off. We'll try to get through the first couple of segments pretty quickly here. We'll start with the beer segment. I am going to start with Nate. What are you drinking this evening?
I have myself some, and in fact, B is very fitting because I have myself a Coke Zero. Along with that, poured in a little Basil Hayden's.
There we go.
And so just enjoying a little B bourbon.
What's Basil Hayden's? Bourbon?
Yes,
yeah.
It's a bourbon.
It's a Kentucky bourbon. It is actually, it's owned by the Jim Beam Corporation. So Think of it as higher end Jim Beam. And super.
It is one of the smoothest bourbons I've ever had, and it's wonderful.
That's the 1 liter bottle of bourbon that Lance and I essentially polished off the last time I was up there.
I think we polished off 2, but yes, at least one of them was Basil Hayden's.
No, you polished off 1. Nate took the other one in his car, and that's what he's drinking right now. We totally drank 2. No. What are these, like $60 each? Yeah, we went through 2.
Hey, no, Basil Hayden is great. It's only like $34, you know.
Oh, that's
not bad. It's $34 on sale. The regular price is $40. Not that I just bought one and have a bottle sitting right here. Anyway, let's move on. Wade, what are you drinking this evening?
Dr. Pepper, baby.
Oh, yeah. There we go. We've got the dad mode full engaged.
And kid free, and I got to work in the morning.
Is Justin Guarini beside you doing his it's the sweet one?
No, just the dog, Cody Brody. Cody Brody's here.
Oh.
Dustin, what are you drinking tonight?
Diet Coke.
Awesome. I myself have Town Branch Bourbon. I'm finishing off my last glass before I end up breaking into my Basil Hayden's. Hopefully we won't get that far this evening, but we'll see. We'll see. I mean, it is Breyer Fest, and that does make me drink a lot. Anyway, so we've got a couple new things in toys, transitioning to toys. We've got everybody, I know, Dustin, you weren't here for it, but we had a bit of a discussion about the HasLab's Sentinel figure. So, guys, why don't you tell me what you guys thought about that?
Dustin, take it away.
Yeah, Dustin, you're the one who backed this thing, so give us your thoughts.
Yeah, no, I backed it, and I'm strongly considering getting a second one if I can swing it. Because I don't know. I mean, it's neat, man. It's really neat.
Not only is it neat, it's something like John, just like Unicron. You know, like if you don't back it, Dustin, like it's not something you'll be able to get your hands on, or the latex on it's going to be ridiculous.
Dude, the latex on anything HasLab, I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that it's going to be double whatever HasLab charged.
Without a doubt.
Like Unicron $575, he's going to be a $1,200 figure after he comes out.
Mm-hmm.
The Sentinel is going to be $700 easy. the little Bastion and the female Sentinel Prime kind of thing that it comes with. Now that the 9,000 tier is already unlocked, and we're only 3 days in or 4 days in or whatever. Those figures are going to be easy $100 figures online after the fact. Like
now,
you could
see,
sell,
I would back it and then sell those ones to recoup my cost.
yeah, no, for real. Like, it's crazy, man. And you know, if you get two, you get like 2 damaged Sentinel heads and hands and stuff. You could build a hell of a diorama.
They better unlock a master mold chair is all I'm saying.
Oh, dude, I could build a master mold chair out of foam. Like, I'm not worried.
The speed in which this thing was backed reminds me a lot of Spawn. I mean, now, if I'm not mistaken, Spawn was backed in only, what, a few hours?
It was an hour.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Minute.
I mean, it took a full 24 to back Sentinel, but
Right.
still.
But Spawn, like, you could go in on Spawn for like $40.
Yeah.
You know, this is 350. Like, it was really impressive. But I mean, the amount of X-Men fans there are compared to Transformer fans, you know.
Yeah, I mean, Marvel in general, especially what's kind of come up with, we know what's coming in Phase 4 and Phase 5 now that they've bought Fox. It just puts it at a different level altogether.
Yeah.
Which is going to be awesome. I can't wait for that to happen. I can't wait to see that on the big screen, but that's neither here nor there right now. The figure itself is absolutely incredible. All the stuff that it comes with, the different heads, the 18-inch tentacle that you can plug in, and it looks like it can fully hold Marvel Legends figure for an indefinite amount of time. That thing's going to be incredible.
Yeah, dude, for doing pictures, for building dioramas, just display in general, it's going to be awesome. But now I have to figure out where to put a 26-inch Sentinel and a 27-inch Unicron in my toy room.
I'll trade you both of those for a fucking 25-pound Hulkbuster.
No, I'm good,
I've been staring at him for like days. Like, where am I going to put this?
Did you ever sell your second one?
Nope, I'm currently in the THC David City or Society or however you spell it.
Oh,
he's doing the J challenge, and he made a poll of what he should buy next.
Oh, I voted hot on that for him.
Yeah. So I told him I got the spare Hulkbuster, and he's like, my wife might kill me. And we're like, bro, your wife is the most understanding woman out of anybody's wife in this group. Like, she's the one that's like, no, honey, I ordered you $1,200 worth of toys.
I mean, I don't know, man. My wife is pretty cool, but she collects shit too. So
that's the dream right there.
It really is.
No,
if you can get
no,
somebody
it's not. Then you end up with a horse room.
Hey, that horse room
my
allows
wife
me
is
to
all
have
very
my
positive
Transformer.
I'm sorry, Lance.
All right.
What allows you to have what?
It allows me to have my Transformer rooms.
Fair enough.
I have 2 because I get the basement. So I've got the finished area in the basement. Then I have an unfinished area in the basement where there's a ginormous built-in shelf.
Oh.
All right, why don't we... So anybody get anything new for toys?
Ooh, good question. Lance with the hard-hitting questions.
I know, right? It's like I'm playing all our old hits just at a different speed.
I could say I didn't pick up anything new this week, but I did when I went to Indiana a couple nights ago. I was at the Walmart, and I did see the arcade 1-up, those mini cabinets or whatever.
Yeah.
The NBA Jam one's been released, and I was like, ooh.
Dude, I got the Street Fighter one. They're a hell of a lot of fun.
Bro, the NBA Jam one has like NBA Jam Tournament Edition, NBA Hang Time, and it comes with like the light up marquee, the light up keyboard, or the light up joysticks, and it's got Wi-Fi in it, so you can play NBA Jam against other people all over the world.
That's awesome.
That's crazy.
I'm looking at my toy room like, where would I fit a cabinet?
Is that the $3.99 one or a $2.99 one?
Yeah, I think it's $3.99, but then there's a special edition. It's $4.99 that comes with an adjustable NBA Jam stool.
Nice.
Like a bar stool. I was like,
That's awesome.
So I've been trying to find like someone said Kohl's, and I looked on Kohl's, and Kohl's is like, this item is not eligible for coupons. Like, well, fuck you, Kohl's.
All right. Anybody else? Anybody get anything new? I didn't get anything new. I did clean up my display room though. That was fun because nothing says my wife's upstairs watching virtual Breyer Fest like I need to go clean my playroom.
Lance is like, you know what? I think the attic needs to be dusted.
Yeah, I you know what's funny is there was quite a bit of cobwebs and spider webs down here. So I brought the vacuum down here, put a hose attachment on, and I just went across the entire ceiling, the walls, behind cabinets. I went into the other room that's down here, started going in there. I did the hallway up and down, and I was like, maybe I'll paint the hallway. I was very productive this weekend. It was fantastic. All right, so wrestling. Anybody have anything to say about wrestling last week? I know next Sunday we've got the horror show at Extreme Rules, which I know we're all looking forward to because it will most likely indeed be a horror show based off the rumors that I've heard with that eye for an eye match.
Yeah, I got nothing, man.
I'm not. They just hit. They keep hinting at the whole. Why do they keep calling it the horror show? Like, have they actually made any? Like, what? It's already Extreme Rules. Like, so then why is it a horror show on top of that?
I think the thought process, and obviously I don't work for WWE, but I think the thought process there was the marquee match was at first going to be that Bray Wyatt, Braun Strowman swamp match that we did with Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton a few years back, and that was going to be the main tape segment. But then they added in this whole Randy Orton, I'm sorry, not Randy Orton, the Rey Mysterio and Seth Rollins storyline, and you know they did that whole eye thing. They're not sure if Rey's going to be there or not, so I think there's two ways this ends up happening, because officially, according to WWE, while I watched their programming, when Seth Rollins took Rey's eye and smashed it into the step, he actually punctured Rey's eye. So if we stay in kayfabe, the eye can't heal. So WWE Medical cleared him last week to wrestle with a singular eye. I don't know how many one-eyed performers there have been, but it results in this eye for an eye match. From what I hear, they've discussed everything from having a fake prosthetic eye to having it done with CGI, and that's when the match stops with one opponent ripping out one of the other opponent's eyes. So you either rip out the eye of Legend Rey Mysterio and leave him, since he has one eye punctured, which, you know, can't work, you leave him with no eyes in WWE storyline, which is fantastic. Or you rip out one of the eyes of expectant father-to-be, I'm still in shock from my wife's announcement, Seth Rollins.
Wait, back it up. So Seth Rollins actually, during that angle, actually hurt Rey Mysterio's eye?
In real life? No.
Yes.
In storyline.
Okay, because you were like, I know, but you're saying, like, I was like, wait a second. Did Seth Rollins, you can't even get like a fake, dude has a leather mask on and you can't even get like a fake eye puncture, right?
Oh, no, they absolutely did that. So Seth Rollins did not actually injure Rey Mysterio. But if we're following the current WWE storyline, which is fantastically ridiculous, he punctured Rey Mysterio's eye, which would mean that that eye is completely inoperable and will never heal. So he literally caused Rey Mysterio to have partial blindness, which wonderful, wonderful storyline. Ridiculous.
I'm more like the wonderful that Vince is slowly getting Alzheimer's. You know what I mean? They're just like, all right, Papa Vince, whatever. Like, he's like, how about we blind both of them? What? Everybody, it'll be a double out. Everybody loses an eye. Vince, that would mean for the rest of their career, they'd have to like wear a patch, to put it up. No, they'll forget about it in like a month.
You know what's funny though is AEW was ripping on WWE for that storyline because they did that storyline with Moxley and Santana from the Inner Circle right before Moxley beat Jericho for the title. So you had Tony Khan and Chris Jericho both ripping on the WWE for that storyline. If that's what happens. If, let's say, we come out and we now have a one-eyed Rey Mysterio and a one-eyed Seth Rollins.
And then they form a tag team.
And then they have two good eyes.
The one good set of eyes. There we go. Fucking money, book it.
One good set of eyes. It's like I like that as a tag
Greece, right? They keep passing around the good eye. There we go. Greek mythology. It's been around for centuries. All right. Anybody else have anything else on wrestling? Dustin?
Is Rey Mysterio's son still have custody? Yeah. Still in custody by Eddie Guerrero?
So it's funny because Eddie Guerrero has passed. So I believe upon Eddie's passing, the custody went back to Rey. However, I believe, if I remember that story angle correctly, the wrestling match was to determine not custody, but who Dominic's actual biological father was. So Rey Mysterio just adopted Eddie Guerrero's son, which is even better.
And if they bring if they even dare bring that up, yikes!
I want them to bring that up, if only to have Seth Rollins then adopt Dominic Mysterio as his son.
I mean, if Vince is going to make a whole angle about Jeff Hardy driving drunk, I mean, like, what makes you think that dead Eddie Guerrero is off the fucking table?
That's fair.
Seriously.
That's fair.
Look at what we have now. We had that taped, quote-unquote, match with the Street Profits and the Viking Raiders when they became the Viking Prophets and took on Tozawa's random band of ninjas. I mean, this is all just par for the course for WWE right now.
Speaking of, when fucking R-Truth ran into Randy Orton and Ric Flair, he's like, I got you, Tozawa, dressing like the Nature Boy.
Exactly. That's fantastic. Actually, what made me think of it is right now, R-Truth is coming to the ring to face Tozawa and a group of ninjas, but the big ninja is not there. Unfortunately, because we all love the big ninja.
Right.
Oh, that was... Anyway.
The only thing I pretty much checked out this week was the segment in which they brought Heath Slater back. Which
he's filled out, huh?
Yeah. I mean...
isn't that what they all do when they get fired? They don't have to do wellness checks anymore? Just a little bit, just a smidge of HGH? Just a touch? Allegedly?
No, because EC3 never did it, allegedly. Oh shit, Shayna Baszler's back.
EC3 is doing an AMA, and that picture he took of himself.
Yeah.
He never looked like that in WWE. If anything, he's lost weight.
Oh, I'm sure. I doubt Impact ever made people do, drug tests or anything like that.
Oh God, no.
What I'm saying is this picture right here I just sent you guys. Like he is like Aquaman ripped. Like he was not. Yeah. He was a lot thicker than that. Like I don't know. I almost call it like road weight because they don't have time to like work out like they should.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When they're constantly on the road.
That's very, very possible. I think you're probably right. I know he and Drake Maverick hit the gym quite a bit because they were initially released around the same time and they started working out together because, as we all know, they're friends in real life. But then that angle, semi-controversial angle for some, of Drake Maverick getting back into the WWE in that Cruiserweight Championship tournament and then ending up getting his WWE contract back in NXT.
Yeah, what do you think the actual like behind the scenes like the kayfabe was on that they gave him his contract back?
I think what ended up happening is he very immediately and very emotionally went and gave his opinion of what happened on Instagram or Twitter or whatever, wherever the video was initially posted. And that got such a fan reaction that they said, wait a minute, we're doing this tournament. Do you want to come in? Yeah, you want to come in. And then they saw, and I think the proof is in the ratings, that their ratings started to creep up closer to AEW. So they were like, we're going to see how far this goes. And I think that's one of the key pieces that attributed the last 3 weeks of NXT's dominance, if you will, over the ratings with AEW and the overall ratings. That got people back. I think there was a storyline that you were able to connect to somebody emotionally. And do I think WWE used that storyline to get more viewers? Fuck yeah, I do. But I mean, WWE is going to do that. Who wouldn't do that? If you had that kind of storyline, if you had this guy that got that reaction and you said, you know what, we're going to bring you back for a wrestling run because that's something you never really had with us. Remember, Drake Maverick was always the general manager of 205 Live up to that point. Now we're going to give you a chance to showcase your skills before we quote-unquote let you go. They get such a reaction from all of that. They're like, no, we've got to keep you now. He, I think, between getting himself over online and the performances that he put in the Cruiserweight tournament, he wrestled himself back into a job. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I mean, that sounds about right. Like I said, I was asking because it wasn't something I knew of.
Yeah, I think that's very possible. But all I was gonna say is I enjoyed the whole angle of Slater kind of bringing up the past, and even though I wouldn't necessarily call what he was involved in a push, but to see Slater involved in a world title match is something you could, if you had told me that even last year, I would have said, yeah, okay. I don't know what you're smoking, but you should probably stop.
Yeah, I would totally agree. And I think it's similar to Drake Maverick in that this was a guy who, Heath Slater almost, I'm not going to say necessarily more than anybody that was let go in that, because there were so many people that let go. But Heath Slater, he's been around forever and a day. He's always been a company guy. He's always been a good hand. I think they were like, all right, here's your shot. Here's your world championship shot. We're going to let you look good on the way out, even though you're technically already out, because Drew wants it. And of course, Drew and Heath have always been friends, so Drew was probably on board. And we're going to do what we do best, which is take a little bit of reality and make it a storyline.
Yep.
All right. Anybody?
I'm just saying, I feel bad for the other guys that got let. You know what I mean? Like, it just sucks that Drake Maverick just happened to pull the right heartstring or whatever.
I don't disagree with you, but I mean, if you look at WWE and how they, so here's what I will give WWE credit for. I'll give them credit for changing how they operate. The last guy that got himself over really, really big on the internet was Matt Cardona, right? Formerly Zack Ryder, right? The internet champion, right? Who doesn't remember that epic visual of him getting to the top of a fence and getting stuck, and his dad or whoever's filming is just like, Matt, what are you doing? He's like, I'm trying to get over, yo. Right? They had talks about bringing the internet championship in, and what happens? WWE is like, oh, you got over with a group of fans on your own. All right, so now that show is property of WWE, and we want it to end this way. And he's like, no, I don't want it to end that way. And so they never did the last episode of the A True Long Island story, I believe it was called. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm probably wrong. And they never did the last episode because WWE wouldn't let him end it the way he wanted to end it. And then Zack Ryder went back to obscurity. He popped up, I think we talked last week, a couple times. We had him at WrestleMania winning the Intercontinental Championship, and then he and Brian Myers, why am I blanking on his ring name right now?
Kurt Hawkins.
Kurt Hawkins, there we go. They won the tag team gold together, breaking Kurt Hawkins' losing streak. And we talked about how it was a transitional thing, a storyline thing. WWE throwing them a bone, right? But WWE has typically killed pushes for people who got over outside of WWE, while at the same time trying to get them to get over inside of the WWE. I think this is a situation of them looking at a particular circumstance, saying, you know what, this is a hot thing right now. We're gonna go ahead. We're gonna get on it. Where's it gonna end? We don't know, but we're just gonna go and we're gonna strike while the iron's hot. And we're gonna play off those people's heartstrings because it makes a better story. It makes it more believable.
We're also going to take all the control away.
I'll let go though.
We're also going to take all the control away from the person that made it hot in the first place. Not going here. You keep doing what you're doing. Like, give it to us. Like, all right, what are you going to do with it? And they're like, don't worry about it. It's like it's almost like Vince McMahon's like trying to cook a chicken in the microwave. You know, like Vince, there's better ways to do it. I know this is how I was taught. Put the microwave on 50 minutes, 55 minutes. Sticks chicken in there.
Yeah, I mean,
Vince, you could do it here in the oven. And no, don't tell me how to do it. I've been doing this for 67 years. All right, Vince, what is this Twitter all the kids keep talking about?
You know what, though? At the same time, if you look at it, he does still do a good job of putting on, because every angle that you watch now, if you love it, it's still him. If you hate it, it's still him. So I think he's one of those people, he just throws a ton of shit at the wall to see what sticks. And what sticks is what sticks for him. And I think that's been a lot of people's complaints for a while, but you know,
I mean, didn't he just make and fire Paul Heyman creative control like Raw? You know what I mean? Like,
yep.
Put him in charge. You know, then after like 6 months, Bischoff, yeah, I don't like what you're doing. Months. It's getting over, but I don't like what you're doing. So you're out of here. Like, what?
I don't think Raw was getting over, though, because Raw's ratings have been constantly dropping, and they
that's
haven't
also
really...
since coronavirus.
Right, it is since coronavirus, but think about it. But for the first, I don't know, 2 months that we were in lockdown, can you name another sport and or TV show that is putting on new episodes that didn't already have a ton of them taped and ready to go? You can. It's WWE and AEW, because neither one of those shows took time off.
Japanese baseball?
No, they got suspended.
Japanese baseball with the CGI people in the stands?
No, they didn't start up until like 2-3 weeks ago.
Whatever. As far as in Japanese baseball.
No, yeah, as far as live events go, they've been the only one.
No, and I get it. I just it's what gets me, and you're right, and it's Vince, good or bad. One thing that irks me is the people that like are super over in like NXT, and they come over to WWE, and Vince is like, "Whew, what was it? What was Brodus Clay or whatever?" And then he's like,
the Funkasaurus.
Then he becomes the Funkasaurus. Like, you got a legit monster on your hands here. Like, he can move. He can do, like, he's kind of like a new man's Vader. And, Vince is like, he needs to dance for the children. Vince, are you sure? Dance
with Naomi and Cameron. I think the most hilarious thing is, out of all three of those, Naomi has lasted the longest.
Well, Cameron,
it wasn't even Brodus Clay. It was one of the dancers.
Brodus, did Brodus get released or did he leave?
I believe he got released. I remember with the Funkadactyls, so he didn't get released until after Xavier Woods debuted because they did an entire storyline. Well, maybe not entire, depending on how you mean entire, but they did a storyline in NXT about how Xavier Woods, who was at the time doing his more Jimi Hendrix-esque version of Xavier Woods, stole the Funkadactyls from Brodus Clay. And that's why when Xavier Woods debuted, he debuted with the Funkadactyls.
Yeah, so I try to get off topic like that, but just that's what gets me about Vince is just that, like, you know, here you got something that, you know, same thing with, was it Sanity or whatever? Like,
yep,
these guys
same
are
thing.
super over. Vince is like, ooh, we don't need to be doing all that now.
Here's the thing, though. Super over in NXT doesn't always translate to super over in WWE proper and vice versa, right?
Well, he doesn't give them. He didn't even give Brodus Clay a chance.
I'm not going to dispute because there are a ton of guys that I feel haven't gotten the chance that came up from NXT, but like I'll give just as a counterpoint, Elias in NXT when he came out. Was he a heel to a certain extent? Yeah, but they didn't quite know what they were going to do with him. Elias came out, the entire crowd would chant in unison, walk away, right? Because his whole thing was walk with Elias. They would chant, walk away. He hit the main roster, and whether he's playing the hero, whether he's playing the face or the heel, he gets the crowd to do whatever he wants. Now, is he great in ring? No. He's kind of like a younger version of The Rock to a certain extent in that he's great on the mic. He can manipulate the crowd on the mic, but in the matches, there's still a little bit something that is there to be desired. So
much
there
like
are
The Rock,
people that do go the other way. It's just rarer.
And much like The Rock, he's not a face. He's either a heel or just slightly less of a heel.
Exactly. He's an anti-hero, right? Because that was the whole thing. That's what ushered in the Attitude Era, was the anti-hero.
Stone Cold was an anti-hero. The Rock never was an anti-hero. The Rock, like, I don't know, I feel like there was a vast difference between The Rock and Stone Cold. Stone Cold was the anti-hero that just did what he wanted. The Rock would, it all, I guess it all, like, I feel like The Rock, it all just depended on who attacked him in the ring. Because he could make fun of the crowd and they'd boo him solid, or he'd make fun of the crowd and they would just love him for it. Like, he never changed his shtick. He just, you know.
No,
yeah,
I disagree.
when Stone Cold turned heel, first thing he did is start bootlicking the boss. You know what I mean? Like, he did change his shtick.
I don't know. I think The Rock did, to a certain extent, change his stuff, what he was doing. It's just the reaction that he was able to get from the crowd. And as much as I love Stone Cold and The Rock, they're my top two favorite wrestlers of all time. I think that, for me, The Rock's just more entertaining because I think The Rock does a better job of being able to manipulate the crowd, at least on the mic. In the matches, that's a different thing. But again, on the mic, he's I don't know. He's remarkably different. Is it the same catchphrases? Sure, but it's the stuff in between the catchphrases that I think goes over, and that's what changed.
I also feel like The Rock was one of the first, I guess, modern wrestlers that kind of figured out, like, you don't actually have to do a lot in ring in order to garner a reaction. You know, you get let's say you got somebody like Hulk Hogan. He didn't do a lot either, but listen to old man Hogan now talks, like his back, his hips, his legs, from all the leg drops, everything's effed up. And like The Rock, I just always laughed. It's like it had to be a full moon and Friday the 13th to almost catch The Rock on the top rope doing something. Like, he knew, you know, I don't know if he learned it from his dad or what, but he knew. That was what?
Stone Cold, after he got his injury, went to ECW, morphed into the character that was to be Stone Cold. He changed up his entire style to more of a brawler style. So it was very similar. Like, you're not going to catch Stone Cold with Steve Austin pulling off a tope suicida.
No. But Stone Cold, what I'm saying is that The Rock, even he wasn't even a brawler. Like The Rock just did everything just so exaggerated. He didn't even have to, like, you know what I mean? Like his finishers,
Yeah.
The rock bottom of people's elbow, like he didn't have to do much, and it just got. I mean, like, what is the urban legend that like
he did it off the Undertaker at house shows.
Well, no, there was something
it was a bet between Triple H, Mankind, and The Rock to see who could do the goofiest thing and get over the biggest.
Yeah, they bet. I think it came down to they bet The Rock he couldn't get an elbow drop over. Something like couldn't get an elbow drop like over, and he was like, "You watch me."
Yep, and then I don't know what because there are a couple versions of that legend. Because the last time I heard Triple H say it, Triple H said it was to pop Taker.
Oh, to get him to laugh.
Yeah, because that's what they used to do apparently at house shows. That's that whole. If you remember the Undertaker's birthday on SmackDown at one point, there was this whole segment that happened at the end where they all came out and they tried to get this Taker to do the Spinner-Rooney, and even McMahon came down and did his version of the Spinner-Rooney because they were trying to get the Undertaker to break character.
You know, I never heard a version of that story with Taker. The only one I'm aware of is that it was a bet between Mankind, Triple H, and Rock, and they all were like, all right, whoever gets the goofiest thing the most over wins. And apparently in a couple of house shows, people's elbow they loved it, and then he started doing it on TV, and it just became a thing.
Yeah. That's the one that I had initially heard. But like I said, Triple H, what was it? It was, I think he was on The Bump. God knows why The Bump was on my TV, but I think he was on The Bump and he was talking about it. Or he was in another interview, but that's the story Triple H came up with. Whether or not that's true, I don't know. Triple H is ever the showman. You're always they're all always the showman, right? They're always trying to create a story to get them pop. So Who knows?
Well, I mean, in all fairness, if Breyer Fest is on TV at your house, The Bump is not a far stretch.
Oh. I would take The Bump over Breyer Fest, which is an excellent segment. I would trust you. All right, so that's a great segue into Breyer Fest. So
it is. And let's before we start this whole thing, let's just make sure that people know that we delayed recording this podcast one day, and we should have led off with this, and that is congratulations, Wade, on your boys' second place in the wrestling tournament.
Yes, sir.
And that ring is legit. Like, I could not believe that thing.
When he handed it to me after his coach gave it to him, I was pretty surprised too. It's heavy, and it's
you need
got,
to
like,
send
rhinestones.
that picture in the podcast group chat so Lance can see it.
Okay.
Yeah, I definitely would love to see that, and congratulations.
Yeah, for the uninitiated, my son got invited. This is he's been in wrestling a year and a half. He's 7, and they were looking for somebody to fill a weight class in the Michigan national wrestling team, and they and we accepted, and it was in Hammond, Indiana. I live in Detroit. It was about a 4-hour drive away. My kid, he put in the work. He kind of did the dieting, not dieting, exercise, kept his, stopped eating junk for a little while. Not wrestled in 4 months, and our group was kind of like the Bad News Bears. We had kids from just about everywhere, and he went 2-4 out of 6. But the kids were fighting. Now, I mean, if you're uninitiated in like folk style wrestling or whatever, these kids he's facing are part of club teams. So, like, it's almost like a jiu-jitsu academy or like a karate academy. There's just wrestling academies that open up, and you just pay to put your kid in there every month, every day, every week, they just grind wrestling. They're not part of a school team that from November to fucking April. You know what I mean? That's what my kid is. So he was disheartened by a couple of the defeats, but he's going against kids that they're the same age and weight, but they have hundreds, if not thousands, of hours more on the mat than he does. And he got his 2 wins. He pinned both the kids, got them both in, I think, in like the first round, maybe 2. And our team, the Bad News Bears, basically the Michigan National Wrestling team, came in second overall against these club teams that were out there for blood. I mean, and I told him, he was upset about some of it, but I told him I couldn't be prouder of him.
That is awesome.
Okay. We don't even know him, and we are ridiculously proud of him.
Appreciate it, folks.
Absolutely.
So just to finish this thought here, we delayed a day because 90, maybe 95% of the following stories I've been privy to. Just hanging out with Lance over the years. So we needed to make sure to have Wade and Dustin here because there is some top-notch, grade A gold in these stories. And
I mean, I feel like you're putting it over pretty hard.
Right.
I always like to undersell so that way I can surpass expectations. You're putting the bar up high.
And maybe a little bit, but throughout most of these stories, my thought process has been you can't write this shit.
I mean, it's basically like WWE with plastic horses.
Yeah. Yep. So
I mean,
go ahead.
No, go ahead. So with that in mind, do we want to go ahead?
I was just going to say, with that said, I'm turning the pun intended. I'm turning the reins over to you.
Ooh, horse puns. That's fantastic. All right, so before we really get into all of the stories, there's a few things that we need to establish in terms of what we're talking about. So we have, so similar to Dustin, my wife also collects something, right? And that's how I get away with it. I'm sure that's how Dustin gets away with it. My wife collects Breyer model horses, right? And there's basically 2 scales for Breyer model horses. There's traditional scale, which I believe is 1/19th. My wife will probably yell at me at some point because she can probably hear me in the basement that I'm wrong, but I believe it's about 1/19th scale for the actual horse. And then you have stablemates, which are, I liken them to Transformers Legend class figures in terms of scale. I believe they're about 1/32nd scale.
Just like that, we're right back to wrestling. Stablemates. Look at you, just tying it all in together. Now make it beer related, and we're golden.
We like to universe build much like the MCU on this podcast. It's all by accident and it's all completely effing random, but we like to try.
Hopefully we're all together 4 or 5 years from now. I'd be like, go back to episode 17 and listen about Breyer Fest to understand what we're talking about now on episode 389 or whatever.
There we go. We'll throw in some callbacks in future episodes.
Perfect.
All right. So now the Breyer company itself has been around since probably like the 40s or 50s. They've pumped out a shit ton of plastic horses. Over the years, their collector group has evolved from people who just collect and have literal bedrooms full of bookcases with horses on them. Like at my house, I love my wife. She took the second largest bedroom in our house for her model horse collection. She lined it with the 72-inch Billy bookshelf from IKEA and she's run out of room in that bedroom. So she has probably roughly about 1,000 of them, probably more. The other component to this group, and this is what makes this group so passionate, is that they have model horse shows. They've taken the U.S., they've divided it up into, at minimum, 10 regions, and every so often, a group of them will get together in a giant conference room that you would rent out if you're having an actual business seminar at a hotel or something like that, and they will compete against each other. The way that it's done is similar to the Westminster Dog Show, right? You have your sporting horses, you have your different breeds of horses, and they'll bring their models, and they have judges go around and judge the models, and then there's an overall champion, and then each group gets a champion, and they all get, anyone who wins gets qualified for what they call NAN. Don't ask me what that acronym stands for. I don't know. But it's a big model horse show sponsored by Breyer at the end of the year, or well, at the weekend before Breyer Fest, right? So the week before Breyer Fest, leading up, they have this giant model horse show. So the goal is to collect as many NAN cards to qualify your horse to show in that, and then you might win more horses, right? So once you get competition into anything, that's, in my opinion, where people start getting a little bit dark in terms of, I'll do whatever it takes to win. And that causes some of the issues in the model horse community. That being said, what is Breyer Fest? Breyer Fest is like their San Diego Comic-Con, right? Every year, Breyer rents out the Kentucky Horse Park in Lexington, Kentucky. Wade, you probably know exactly where it is. I literally drive through West Virginia at least once a year, except for this year, for the last, 5 years. They rent out the entire fucking horse park, the whole thing, in the middle of July. So, if you've been to the southeastern United States in the middle of the summer, it's not pleasant. Breyer then sells exclusive horses that you can only get by going to this one Breyer event. And it's a goddamn madhouse. Any convention you have room sales, this convention, it's every room has a sale. It's a 3-day event, and some of the craziest things that I have seen happen have happened at this event. So to give you an idea, the Breyer themselves say it's a celebration of a horse. My very first year there, I did not volunteer. I have volunteered 3 out of the 5 years that we've gone. My very first year, it was standing in line, walking across the Kentucky Horse Park to some other place, which is not fun to do when it's 95 degrees out with 90% humidity.
Walking through soup.
Yeah, the Kentucky Horse Park is not a small park. You have just throngs of people, and it gets worse when you go back to the hotel with the room sales because everybody's door is open. There's no peace and quiet, and you would think, well, how many people could fit in the hotel there? Because the hotel is just like a 2-floor hotel. It's probably got about not even 500 rooms. And that place on Friday night, because the event starts on Friday night. Well, technically it starts on Thursday night, but Friday night and Saturday night is packed with people to the point where I don't know if you've ever seen or, people joke about New York subways and how they're packed and everybody's jammed in there like sardines. That's what's trying to move through the hallways of this place for 2 days solid. So it's great. These people love their horses.
Give us a screenshot of the, like, what is the average Breyer Fest attendee look, act, sound, smell? That's DCC. If you're going to compare them, there's some smelly neckbeards there. Does Breyer Fest got its own?
I mean, Breyerfest has its own weird, kind of unique people. Like I said, we've been going for 5 years, so there is the woman that is 2 doors down across the hall from us. I can't give you a picture of her. She does not like me for some reason. Every single year, my wife and I and her 2 daughters get to the hotel at the exact same time. She gets there right before us. I, of course, bring everything in. She will go and she closes the door on me every time I go to the outside to the car to grab another bunch of bags to bring in. Now, if you're wondering of how many bags, like you're like, oh, okay, you bring some suitcases and stuff. No, my wife competes in the model horse shows. So I'm looking at minimum 6 to 8 bins, and they're the like 19-gallon kind of mid-sized bins full of horses that I'm bringing in that I can only carry at about 2 at a time, because these are the prize models out of my wife's collection because she's trying to win better horses at Breyerfest. Right? So Breyer has not only the Nan show, but they have another model horse show that happens during Breyerfest. They also have costume contests. It's a 3-day extravaganza. They're using the covered arena at the center of the Kentucky Horse Park. They've got something running there all day long. They've got the craft and activities tent, which is just a tent outside where they let you paint your own horse. They've got the special run lines. They've got the Breyer store. Then they've got their event-specific store. They rake in the money at this place. And then they also run hobby how-tos, basically. They run workshops with people who teach you how to customize or repair or do whatever to your Breyer model horses. Along with, hey, you're in the Kentucky Horse Park. There are actual real horses there. I will tell you this right now. The very first thing that I remarked to my wife on the very first day of the very first Breyer Fest I went to, and this is the story that I told her. Standing in line, waiting for one of the tents because she wanted something out of one of the tents. I look to my left. There is a guy in a ring with a horse. He is literally offering free horse rides and is trying to get people to come see his actual horse.
And they're all terrible.
Not a person moved. They were all in line for whatever plastic horse they wanted. You know, Breyer tends to try to represent it as a celebration of the horse. It's a celebration of capitalism, basically, because people are more concerned about buying stuff from Breyer than they were about the actual horse. So, as far as the average Breyer Fest attendee goes, it really runs the gambit. Last year, there were, over the course of the 3 days, there were 25,000 people at Breyer Fest. It is not small. It's bigger than anything that Transformers do. I would say, I don't know how many people does Comic-Con usually get? I have to say that it's probably close to that, right?
I would assume that SDCC has probably a couple 100,000 people move through there the week it's up.
Thousands of people in there, so.
Now, are you also saying that at Breyerfest the exclusives are like you can't buy them like online? You know, like sometimes
no,
like
you can't buy them online. No, you can buy them there, and we'll get into. So the secondary market for Breyer stuff is. We were talking about the secondary market for something like Unicron or
the latex,
the Sentinel, right? These one-of-a-kind things. What happens at Breyerfest is that to the nth degree. because the things that you can get at BreyerFest, you only get at BreyerFest. You can't get online, with the exception of this year, because they did virtual BreyerFest. But even then, you had to have already purchased a BreyerFest ticket to be able to get them. So you can get a horse, and so for volunteering, right? I mentioned that I was a volunteer. As a volunteer, I get whatever the quote-unquote volunteer model is. That volunteer model is roughly 1 out of, we'll say, about 75, roughly. That model then immediately goes for $600 to $700 easy, and that's for a mold that is not considered a really good mold by Breyer collectors.
But if you're a completionist, you need it.
Exactly. Not even if you're a completionist. Because it's 1 of 75, if you take it back and bring it to show, then you can show that model and it gets you a better grade in collectability because it's a rarer model.
All right, now. Oh, no, hold on.
Sure.
Now, is your wife one of the people that insists on keeping every single one you get your hands on, or is she someone that, something like that, she's cool with you selling and recouping some of your money back?
So I'm going to ask you a question. In my point of view or hers?
No, I'm saying, is your wife the kind of collector that lets you do that? Or is she like, no, give it up, old man?
What my wife has said is if I volunteer and I get a model that she doesn't like, then we can turn around and we can sell it. That hasn't happened yet.
Gotcha. Okay.
So will it happen in the future? I don't know. But that hasn't happened yet. So, and to get back to the mentality of some of how they operate and what their mentality is, the most jarring thing that I heard as my wife and I were walking through the hallway of the hotel, because we get a room at the hotel, we stay at the hotel. We were on our way to visit some of her friends, and we're walking by and people have their room doors open. I heard this one lady on Thursday afternoon, so before BreyerFest even started up, the exact quote was, "This is awesome. I just got my disability check. I can now I can go and spend more money on Breyers than I thought I could."
Yeah.
Yeah. I was walking one year back to my car with an armload of horses that my wife had bought, and I saw this guy who was probably 6'3". He looked like he was probably about 150 pounds. He was pushing his wife into the back of a pickup in her wheelchair, and she was not small at all. There's just so much weird stuff that happens at this show or over this weekend. Wade, you asked me about stealing, right? And if there's theft involved. Well, because there's competition and because of the price that these things go to, yeah, there's a decent amount of theft involved. Most of the people that go are really, really top-notch, excellent people. There are some that ruin it for others. So in terms of theft, there have been a few things that have happened. We've got the one that immediately stands out in my mind, and this one pisses me off, but it has a nice ending. There was a woman who lived out in Iowa. She was a foster mom, and she brought her, I think it was like 5 foster kids to BreyerFest. They had a minivan. They loaded up the minivan. They drove. God bless her. She drove 5 foster kids between the ages of, I think it was like 8 and like 13, from Iowa to Kentucky. My parents drove me and my sister from Massachusetts to Washington, D.C., and they almost killed us. I don't know how this woman survived. She is, in my opinion, an absolute saint. They get there. The kids wanted to enter the costume contest. Now, with the costume contest, the pool of horses that they give out is a little small. There's maybe 25. They give out 10 to the groups. So they give out about 10 to the group winner or winners, and then they give out 10 to, they have it split between kids and adults. So they give out roughly about 10 to each. But when they do the group, it's kind of dependent on size because each member of the winning group gets a horse and then so on and so forth. Her kids won.
Do they get handed a horse, or is there like they get to come up and pick one off the table? Okay.
Nope. They get handed the horse in box, and if there's any kind of blemish or any factory flaw in it, Breyer will take it at the event, take it back to their factory in New Jersey, fix it, and then mail it back to you, which is really
awesome.
Cool. So her kids won for the kids group, right? So they had super rare horses that they were all excited about. They went back to their hotel. They put them in the van. They left them in the van. That night, their van was broken into. Nothing was stolen except for the horses.
Just damn.
Only thing that was stolen. They had all kinds of stuff in the van. That was the only thing that was stolen.
So somebody had to watch the kids leave, get in the van, follow them to where they were going,
know where their hotel was, break in to their van, and steal only those rare horses.
I guess I don't understand. I mean, not to say it's their fault, but I guess I don't understand, like, if you're parked at your hotel, why you don't take the rare horses inside with you.
I mean, I'm not gonna. So for me, from the way I see it, it didn't matter if they tried to bring it into the hotel. This person, if they're motivated enough to follow these kids back to the hotel, to break into their van, they're also motivated enough to try and figure out a way to get into that room and then steal those horses.
I mean, I guess. Right? I mean, I'd hate for the police to come and tell your mom you got murdered because you tried going a woman with 5 foster kids. You tried going in her hotel room to steal some plastic horses, and she shot you in your fucking face.
No, like I get that too, but at the same time, you know, we're dealing with what's going on in this particular situation. I don't think, you know, regardless of whether the horses are in the hotel room, because while in terms of, hey, I got shot because I was trying to steal horses out of a hotel room, in the United States, you can't carry your weapon, which is licensed by your state, even if your state doesn't have a license. You can't carry your weapon across state lines. Some
states, I think, allow you if you're licensed. I mean, I think that there's a handful of them that do, but I'm just saying that.
Yeah, there are probably a handful, but in general, you can't carry, if federally, you can't carry your weapon across state lines.
Right? I'm just saying, but I also know, I mean, having to deal with it with family and friends, most thieves are cowards. They're opportunists. Like breaking into something in the middle of the night and not getting caught, definitely. Breaking into a hotel room in the middle of the night with people in there sleeping, whole different story. But no, I digress. But no, that's absolutely insane.
It's opportunity, right? When does the opportunity arise, and let me capitalize on that opportunity? Yeah. So the opportunity arose for this person to steal these horses out of the kids' van, right? That was the opportunity that arose, right? So long story short, too late. But in terms of what happens, right? So that's the kind of thing that they do, because those horses literally will go for probably anywhere from $1,000 to about $2,500. The Breyer community, by the time, so that happened on Friday. That's when the costume contest is.
Okay.
By Saturday night, the Breyer community already had what was basically a GoFundMe to replace these kids' horses, to buy these kids new horses. And then Breyer themselves stepped in and said, you know what, we're going to cast a few more for you, and we're going to send them to you. So, I mean, it has a happy ending for the kids. But at the same time, you asked about theft. There's theft number one.
I was going to ask, my next question is Breyer, is Breyer a very responsible company when it kind of comes to that stuff, that they're not like,
Absolutely.
It's not just like you said capitalism, but they're also not just there to grub money and be done with it. They do philanthropic things like that.
They're good people. They have an extremely passionate fan base, and Breyer is very good about taking care of that fan base.
From what I've heard from Lance, like these people at Breyer, they offer the best service out of any company we've all dealt with.
Absolutely. I wish Hasbro took more lessons from Breyer. One of the things that I said when HasCon was happening back in, what year did HasCon happen now? 2017?
2017.
God, it's so long ago, and we've only had the one. But one of the things that I was saying going into HasCon, because Hasbro was like, yeah, we talked to a lot of other companies that do a lot of other things. I'm like, I hope they talk to Breyer, and I hope they really embrace everything that Breyer did, because even though I am not a Breyer fan, the Breyer company is amazing for their collectors and their fans.
They have your respect. I understand.
Absolutely. 110% every single time. So thefts. There were a couple of more of note that over the last 5 years that I'll kind of, and you can do with them what you want, right? So as I mentioned before, I volunteer. I volunteered last year. I worked the Craft and Activity Center. It's hot. There's a lot of people. Everybody wants to paint a little stablemate horse, right? So they're small horses. They give you a pack that has the little horse in it, a little horse brush, and you get a little packet of paint, right? And it's either what they call natural colors, which is brown, white, black, or fantasy colors, which I think pink, blue, and something else. So with 25,000 people last year, there were a ton of people that came through. Additionally, there is some additional paint at the volunteer table where the volunteers are trying to coordinate everything. Last year, we, unbeknownst to us, volunteers-wise, because there was so many people, we couldn't keep track of a damn thing. We had every single table full. There were people on the floor in the back. Usually they do face painting in the back. There were people that were just like on the floor everywhere. It was packed with 25,000 people. Again, not necessarily at the Craft and Activity Center, but we had a pretty decent line, and we had 2 places bringing people in, and we were just trying to do our best to get people going and whatnot. We had one girl who was there, and I guess she wanted to make some extra money. So what she was doing, what happens is you come in, you get your little horse, you sit down at a table, you paint it, and then you bring it up to a table to dry. Give it about an hour, you come back and collect your horse, and then you go on with your Breyerfest experience. We had a girl who was taking advantage of the fact that the volunteers kind of rotate and can't always be in the same place at the same time. And she was coming up to the finished models table, and she was stealing them. And then she went back to the hotel, and this is right up there with one of the dumbest things that I've ever heard. She went back to the hotel where most of the Breyerfest guests stay, and she was in the main concourse area as people were walking by, and she was selling other people's painted stablemates that she had stolen as these one-of-a-kind Breyer horses to people on the quote-unquote cheap. And that blew my mind. She, of course, was caught. One of the people that had their stablemate stolen was walking by and was like, hey, that's my stablemate. They didn't confront her. They went and they informed the authorities. They went and they informed Breyer, who then informed the authorities, and it was this whole big thing. I mean, these are free, right? These stablemates are free. This is for your kids to go and paint a model horse and have fun, and you're stealing a kid's model horse and trying to sell it.
I mean, that's the same people that go to the store and steal a toy and repackage it with something else. You know what I mean? That's the same idea.
Same idea, exactly. And the last thing is pretty fun. So the last big issue that I ran into with theft, and this to me takes some giant cojones. At Sunday, 4 o'clock, Breyerfest is done. Breyerfest, they don't employ, but they have a number of volunteers. Again, as I've said. There were these two people, a husband and a wife, who decided they wanted a very special souvenir from Breyerfest. Now, when Breyerfest is in the covered arena at the Kentucky Horse Park, there is a stage. The stage is, I would say, roughly about 80 feet wide, 30 feet tall. Breyer hangs a banner back there, and it's just a picture of a bunch of horses and whatnot. It's nothing that says Breyer on it. Like, it's just a giant banner, and it's about 60 feet wide and 20 feet tall. These two people went as Breyerfest was closing. They just walked in. They started taking it down. Some of the Kentucky Horse Park people asked them what they were doing. They said, oh, we got sent here by this person at Breyer, because Breyer is a small company, and they just told us to take it down. We're volunteers, and the Kentucky Horse Park people didn't know any better. They said, okay, they stole the friggin' 60-foot wide, 20-foot high banner.
Did they get away with it?
Not entirely. So Breyer was like, hey, our banner got stolen. We're not going to press charges or say anything if it gets returned. It took probably about 2 months, but those people returned the banner eventually. Because what the hell are you going to do with that banner? You can't put it on eBay. That's asking for you to be caught. You can't post it anywhere on the internet for a private sale, because eventually it's going to get back to somewhere.
Got to go on the dark web, to the BreyerNet dark web.
I mean, there's got to be one at this point, right?
There's a black market somewhere. Yeah, there has to be.
It was absolutely insane. They were an older couple, so I don't know that they had the ability to find the Breyer dark web, but it was absolutely insane that they went in there and they just said, yeah, we're with the volunteers, and they just took off with this massive friggin' sign.
Bro, we say it all the time in my job. If you walk around with like a bag of tools or a reflective vest on, people will let you in. And like, nobody says a damn word to you.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. Because the horse park people don't know the volunteers don't know the horse park people. All you have to do is really just drop one name, which is exactly what they did, and there you go. It's gone. It's crazy. And I mean, it's an interesting time. I will tell you this right now. The only way I get through Breyerfest is with at minimum 2 bottles of bourbon. And that's how I discovered my love of bourbon, is by going to Breyerfest. About 10 minutes down the road, there's from the hotel is Town Branch Bourbon, or Town Branch Distillery. I discovered that. It's been my go-to since I've been there. My wife and we're a mixed race couple. People can't see me, but I'm not fully Caucasian. I'm half African American, half Caucasian. We have definitely, my wife and I, when we were walking in downtown Lexington, mind you, we were coming out of the Rupp Arena, right? So if you're a big college basketball fan at all, you know exactly where I'm talking about. The University of Kentucky Wildcats play out of the Rupp Arena. It is literally one of the most famous college basketball venues in all of sport in the U.S., right? We're coming out of the Rupp Arena, and an African American woman gives me this glare, and I knew which glare it was because, you know, I've gotten it before. It's the "What are you doing with that white girl" glare. So that was fun, right?
It's the white woman stare. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's the "Why are you with a white woman?" Like what is, you know, it's one of those things. We've had. We drive down there. The drive is friggin' insane because we do it all at once. We go, it's about a 16-hour drive. We drive from New Hampshire all the way down to Lexington, Kentucky. Man, I don't know, Nate. What other nuggets do you remember? Because when I think of Breyerfest, I think of heat, bourbon, and me just complaining for 3 days straight that I don't want to be there.
Well, I always look forward to it because I can always guarantee on at least one drunk phone call from Lance.
Listen,
at
that
minimum.
one time, it was one time, and that was to make sure that you picked up Triptychon for me.
I think you've been drinking a little more, buddy, because it's been more than that one time.
Well,
breaking news. They just released pictures of the upcoming Ford Bronco.
I saw you post that.
Yes.
Let's see. Other things that I think of. I mean, so this goes back to a little bit earlier, Wade, with your question about...
Nate, before you keep going, Wade, I just pulled up the Ford Bronco picture. I would appreciate it more in white. Continue.
Yikes.
Whoa.
Yikes.
Listen, married to a white woman, I don't think you need a white Ford Bronco at all.
I don't know. Maybe I do.
Thankfully, Lance can't play football, so
it also
the
doesn't
gloves
come with leather driving gloves. Yeah, it doesn't come with leather driving gloves.
Well, this took an interesting turn.
Whoa, this went dark fast.
I mean, we've gone downhill before, but we just dove off a cliff here.
So dark.
What was? So there's always a drunk phone call from Lance, which is always fun. And going back to what you were asking earlier, Wade, you know, just giving descriptions and whatnot. You know, Lance has showed me some of the pictures of some of the people there, and I'll tell you what, there are a couple of really good-looking ladies that
it runs the gambit.
Yeah.
You can't. I think I can't peg down who the average Breyerfest attendee is, other than say it's probably a white woman, and that's because like I know,
and they all look alike to Lance.
Wow.
Oh, God. Oh, we're going there.
Yep.
One of the big YouTubers for Breyer, because Breyer has YouTubers, is African American. But past that, I mean, the entire time that I've been there, I could probably count total less than 10 minority families. That being said, I don't see everyone. And for at least 8 hours of Breyerfest, I'm working. Unfortunately, sometimes at the Craft and Activity Center, which results in, I guess, you getting into arguments with some guests about paint colors. So I had this guest one year that they were looking for a specific color because their daughter wanted to paint this masterpiece horse and she needed orange. And it was Saturday, just before afternoon. We had already run out of paint due to a communication issue, or we were already running out of paint, and all we had left was green and pink. This man was adamant that I supply him with orange paint, to which I told him I couldn't. We didn't have any more orange paint. He said, "Can't you mix some?" I said, "The only colors I have left are green and pink." He's like, "Yeah, can't you mix some?" So I don't know how many of you passed elementary school art.
The color wheel.
You get orange paint by mixing red and yellow, not green and pink. Anyway, continue, Nate.
Oh no, I mean, that's about it. So one thing that Lance has done before he decided to take his leave from Facebook was he was doing a wonderful annual editorial on his Facebook page called The Diary of a Forced Attendee. And I don't know if you have a way, Lance, of ever getting back all those things that you wrote up, but...
Oh yeah, I could log into Facebook again, but and granted, a lot of them are comedy gold. And I've had people who, so last year when it ended, I've had people both in Jen's hobby and outside of Jen's hobby just ask about it, about when we're getting the next one. I have been suggested by somebody to make a blog site about it. And I may do that at some point, but yeah, I need to get off of Facebook. Apparently, about 4 years ago, some guy was elected to the White House, and that was really divisive for the country. And yeah, we haven't really recovered from that one.
I'm not following. Who are you talking about?
Doesn't matter.
I can't
Just some
remember
dude.
his name.
Yeah.
I think he was supposed to be in the state, but due to threat of rain washing out his hairspray and exposing his bald spot, and then causing his orange spray tan to stain his white shirt, I believe he decided to cancel that appearance.
Yep.
What
Another thing that made me chuckle, because Lance told me, obviously, as he said, the Town Branch Distillery is very close to where they are, and as I said, I always get tons of messages, texts, and usually at least a drunk phone call while he's down there. So one year when I was up at his house, I started to joke around saying, "Hey, look, I'll buy a plane ticket, get a room, I'll meet you down there, just you and I will just bro down while Jen does her thing." And that didn't go over well. Oh, she was not happy with that idea one bit.
Oh, you tried ruining her Breyer. She needs someone to stand in goddamn line. Now, if you said, "Hey, I'll stand in another line for you," while Lance stands in the line.
No, that won't work, and I'll tell you why it won't work. So Breyer, the way they do their what they call special runs, right? So they make a series of like 7-ish models that are specific to Breyer Fest that you can purchase. These aren't the ones that you can win by doing various other Breyer activities. These are the ones that you can purchase, but only at the event. They give you, when you get your ticket, when you buy your ticket, they give you another ticket with a time, and you have an hour window. And what you do is you go to this tent before your hour starts. Each ticket has a number. The person from Breyer will call out a number. That is who is number one, and then you have to line up in order, numerical order. God forbid you are even like one space off numerical order, they will jump on you immediately for anything. They will be all over you. They will just not even attempt to like trade tickets or sell other tickets. Then, to give you an idea of how I guess parents have started to get into it, not collectors, but like parents who have kids, they'll have multiple special run times. They'll buy the special run model, and then they'll come out of the paddock where the special runs are, and they'll immediately hold up a sign that the model is for sale for somebody who doesn't have a special run time or wants to have that model. Right there, right in front of where the tent is that sells them, because they don't want that model, or they want to recoup the cost of going to BreyerFest. Which also reminds me of another story that I'm sure Nate will remember. My very first BreyerFest. I was shell-shocked. Friday and Saturday. Sunday was the last day of BreyerFest. Now, when you get to BreyerFest in the morning, there is a group of people that the Breyer faithful refer to as the ninjas. And the reason they refer to them that is because if you go there the night before, they're not there. But when you go the next day, show up early the next day, these people have literally camped out to be first in line for Breyer. So days 1 and 2 of BreyerFest, Breyer was handing out numbers for their special stores and whatnot. So when you got into the park, you didn't have to worry because you had your number and that was your place in line. So around Saturday afternoon, they realized people were stealing the numbers. When we got there on Sunday morning, that meant it was a free-for-all. Now, this was before my wife and I got married, so I kind of took a look at this where we were in line, and I was like, okay, the Breyer employee, word came down from the line that they weren't doing the numbers, which meant it was a free-for-all. I was like, okay. And they were about to open the gates. I turned to my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time. I'm like, I want you to know, I'm going to get whatever it is that you want at this store, because she gave me the catalog, and she circled it and numbered it 1 to priorities, you know. I'm like, I love you, but I'm not going to see you for 2 hours, because she had to get to the Breyer store, and then she had a special one time. And she's like, what are you talking about? So I tightened up my backpack, clipped it around my waist. They opened up the doors, and it was a stampede of people. I got to the place she wanted me to get to. I was probably like 25th in line. So I was like, hey, I'm pretty sure I've got a good chance of getting what my wife wants. And then they, for some reason, weren't opening the stores until 9 a.m. Now, mind you, they opened the doors at 8 a.m. We had been in line since about 6:30 a.m. So I get to that line for whatever tent she wants me to, and I'm like, all right, I'm in a good spot. I'm standing there. Here comes this 5'0", probably under 100-pound lady who's wearing all sweats. Like, she's got a zip-up hoodie and, like, sweats. She's carrying an oxygen tank.
No.
She's going... I kid you not. She's, like, 75, 80. Carrying an oxygen, she's got the oxygen tank on wheels. Obviously, she wasn't going to be one of the first people in line, so she starts walking up towards the front of the line. Now, me, I'm like, all right, she probably has some people up there. I'm not going to worry about it. Whatever. So she walks by me. Whatever. I don't care. I'm still in a good spot. About 10 spots in front of me, this woman with a New Jersey accent pops out in front of her. Excuse me, what are you doing? She's like, I'm going with my family. They're saving me a spot in line. She's like, no, I got here at 6 a.m. to be in this line. You aren't here. I don't care if you have a family. Go to the back of the line. And the woman the woman with the oxygen tank looks at her and she's like, I have cancer. At which point, another person pops out of the line. I don't care. I had cancer too. I got better. Get to the back of the line. She's a 75 to 80-year-old woman with cancer. She's like, I've got cancer. I've got family up there that are saving a spot to me. I'm just trying to get to them. And these two women will not let her go. There's one in front of her, one behind her. They will not let her go until one of the Breyer employees notices that there's a disturbance in the force. Or, well, they start walking down this way. The one behind them, the one that's behind the woman who can see the Breyer employee coming, points to the Breyer employee to the woman that's in front of the woman with the oxygen tank, and then they both melt into the line, and she goes to see her family.
That's why I couldn't have any power. I'd be like, all right, you two, get the fuck out of here. You're not welcome here.
So the spoiler on that one is that person that came out they were temporary. So Breyer, what they do is that not only do they get an army of volunteers, but they also get their family to help out, and they'll pay them. This particular Breyer employee, quote unquote, because Breyer's only like 20 people big. This particular employee was actually a family member that was helping out with Breyer. And it's just hilarious because Breyer is very good and they're very fair. All the respect in the world for him. I might not collect their stuff, but if I did, I'd be a happy collector. They also, at the same time, are very strict in terms of conduct. This stuff happens, but these two women just melted back in line. I don't know how they didn't lose their place, but they melted back in line simply for the threat of them might being kicked out of Breyerfest and not being able to buy whatever horse we were in the line of. I think that year's theme, if I remember correctly, was France. So my wife was looking for, and I don't know why I remember this, my wife was looking for the tent exclusive model, which was some sort of pony with the cave drawings from that early settlement they found in France. And then I got her the crystal horse as well, because they have like one crystal horse that my wife didn't collect, but I got her that, and then she started collecting them because she liked it. But yeah, they're a little high strung. My wife and I were talking the other night about them because they did virtual Breyerfest this year, so a lot of the complaints have been online, and I liken the Breyer collectors, the bad ones anyway. There are a lot of good people. There are a lot of good people that are just nice and chill, but I liken them to Karens. It's like being in a place with 15,000 Karens for a weekend. And that's what it's like. Anyway. Oh, it's super fun. That's why I drink the bourbon. So, Nate, what else? Like, Wade, do you have any more questions? Dustin, are you going to take yourself off of mute and ask a question?
Ouch. No, it's weird hearing about, like, with the stuff that we all collect, people can get kind of frisky, but then there's like these fringe collectors, like, It kind of seems like how Beanie Babies were in their heyday. These people that are just like
super hardcore.
Hey, according to my price guide from 1997, my Tabasco should be worth $10,000.
Right. Yeah, no, it's just one of those things. You just wonder, like, I don't know. Breyer knows exactly what they're doing when they make all these super exclusive, hard to get variant, blah blah blah. Like, they're a business. They're in it to make money. But at some point, when kids are getting robbed and fucking old ladies with cancer getting assaulted. Like, maybe it's time to back it down a little bit. Maybe just a smidge.
Again, what I will say is Breyer's generally very good, and the majority of people are not like this. So these are like outliers. In terms of what people are willing to spend or how dedicated the Breyer fan base is, we haven't really gone into the Breyer Fest auction because they do have an auction where they auction off one-of-a-kind models. Last year, I watched one model horse that was a one-of-a-kind go for, and this is the highest that any's ever gone for. It was $22,000. It was legitimately enough to buy a friggin' car. And the person that won that horse is actually a collector in Australia, whose husband owns the largest cattle farm in Australia. And she ended up spending a total of, at Breyer Fest, of about $46,000 just on the auction models alone.
Okay.
That being said, I watched the auctions this year, and I think the highest one was about $10,000. But still, that's $10,000 for a singular model horse. Think about that. So $46,000. So I think last year when I went to the collector group that Nate and I belong to, we tried to come up with a value that we could equate that to. The closest that we can come to matching that for one single piece in Transformers is what the prototype G2 Menasor sold for, which was about $20,000, $26,000. So you can equate that one piece to that one Breyer piece. But when you get to the realm of spending $46,000, because there's only that one G2 Menasor, you fall off pretty quick. I think the next most expensive thing in Transformers them is probably, and guys correct me if I'm wrong, probably going to be the Japanese Grand Max.
Yeah. I think it's going to be like a tie between a tie between the Grand Max and a big powered gift set. I think those two things are running around the $2,500, $3,000 mark.
Right, but even still, if you add those together with the G2 Menasor, you can't even come close to that $46,000.
Yeah,
it's crazy. Like I don't know how these people spend that kind of money.
I think the only way you're coming close to that $46,000 is if you have a decent, complete G1 US collection. Then maybe you're getting in that realm. But even that, I'm not sure.
But that's a complete collection. I think you would even need to have them. You maybe even need to have them AFA graded. In-box AFA graded.
So can Breyers be AFA graded?
That's a good question.
You said a lot of them come in box, but do they come in like...
if they keep them in box. My wife doesn't keep them in box. I don't know. I haven't met many collectors that do keep them in box, and the reason would be for the size alone. So if you're looking at a 1/19th or 1/16th scale horse, that's pretty friggin' big, right? We're looking at, for your traditional Breyer, which is what Breyer's bread and butter is, you're looking at something that's probably between 8 and 10 inches tall, and then depending on the pose, you have to take into factor width from the nose to the tail. You can have some, they take up a significant amount of space, so to have them in box would just be insane.
So Wade, to give you an idea,
the boxes like white cardboard boxes, or do they come in like clear plastic clamshells so you can keep them in box and still see what they look like? Or
they're cardboard boxes with the plastic front.
So
so you can see inside of it.
Yes.
Wait, to give you an idea, the way that I look at it is with these larger scale Breyers, I equate them to not quite ultra, but mega pops, like around that size.
Okay.
Um, my my uncle's shop, uh, at least used to, down in Orleans, Massachusetts, would carry Breyer horses. So I know what a lot of those, the larger scale ones that Lance is talking about. I know what those boxes look like.
That was probably too old. Yeah, so they take up a significant amount of room. Um, and I really think it's that competitive piece where they're competing for these Breyers, um, to get more Breyers, and it's just for Breyer, it's a wonderful business model. Like it is the epitome of plastic crack, in my opinion. I think in terms of the veracity of the collectors at Breyerfest, like that's the hardest of the hardcore. Um,
Is it mostly
and
now? Dumb question. Is it mostly women?
yes, yep. It's honestly, it's 95% Caucasian women.
So when you
And
see
that
someone, you said you got the black lady stink eye from being married to a white woman. When you're there and you see like somebody else that might be African American, do they give you like a look like crazy white people? Do you get that look too?
so I don't get that particular look because that particular incident happened at the Rupp Arena, which is outside of Breyerfest. So that's in Lexington proper.
No,
That's
no. I'm
close
saying
to downtown
kind of
Lexington.
like kind of like that same thing though. You said that you see very few minorities, but when you do see one, they probably look at you like, "The fuck are we doing?"
Probably, yeah. I would be like, oh my god, it's another. It's almost like the Spider-Man meme where you're pointing at him, right?
He's pointing at himself. Yeah.
I was just like, oh, another one. But yeah, I think it's. I mean, it is what everybody's really really nice there. Or well, not everybody, but the majority of the people are really really good people. I don't want to make it seem like I'm bashing them. They're really good people. You get mixes of all kinds of people in terms of differing viewpoints. Um, and Breyer themselves, again, awesome people. I know, and it makes you want to like do nice things for people. So a couple of years ago, one of my wife's friends was trying to get back to her car and then over to the arena where they were having the costume contest. Oddly enough, it was the same year that the kids got their model stolen. She was running across the of a Kentucky horse park. She fell. She gashed her knee so bad that they wanted to call an ambulance and take her to the hospital for to get stitches. She tore her jeans. It was just this probably a good like 6-inch gash in her knee.
Okay.
Uh, she absolutely refused to leave because she wanted to go and enter the costume contest. Um, but again, I know her. She's a friend of my wife. There were a bunch of other people there. Like she had been going through a rough patch. I know because my wife told me about it before we went. So like I was up on all of the Breyer drama and whatnot. And it ended up that I was going to take her costume and enter the costume contest.
Yes.
Uh, so, oh yeah, I absolutely did it. So I took her costume, I put her backpack on. Her costume had a giant sign and it had a walker, because her idea was to celebrate the Old Friends rescue barn, which took old racehorses and just kept them there through their final days after they're done racing, after they've done have been done going to stud. I don't know, Wade. I don't know how much of a horse person you are. Do you know what going to stud means?
Isn't that when they take them to go make babies?
Exactly. So it is the ultimate retirement plan. People just pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to have this horse make babies. So when they're done like with that, then there's this gap in terms of life. If they have a good owner, great. They probably keep them till end of life. Not all owners can do that because at the end of the day, it's a business. So there's a farm down there. There are multiple farms, but this particular farm's Old Friends. So the whole idea was that the costume was an older horse. It had a walker. And they were like, hey, we need you to do this. And I was like, okay. I looked at the line because at the end of the night, everybody's trying to get out of the horse park and either get over to that show or get back to the hotel. And I said, there's no way if I ride in a car, I'm going to make it in time. I'm 5'8", I'm 250, so I'm obviously not a runner. And I took off running the entire length of the Kentucky Horse Park from the parking lot to the All-Tech Arena in the back. So we're looking at like a mile and a half. I got to the arena. I had no idea where I was going. They were all super helpful. I'm pouring sweat. They're like, oh, hey, go to this elevator. And I was like, okay. So I go to the elevator, and right as I get there are a group of Breyer people in the employee. Now, it is Breyer's current marketing VP, not SVP, but VP, and the CEO of Breyer are in this elevator. And they're like, oh, you're going to the costume contest. Come on, come down. And here I am. I've got to be, now my general skin tone is probably somewhere around Puerto Rican Hispanic, right? Just because when you're a mix of, when you're a Halfrican, as I like to refer to myself, like you can go from Derek Jeter, who, if you didn't know his dad was black, he looks just like another white guy, all the way down to, I don't know, like a Tiger or like a Barack Obama, who you don't even know he's mixed. So like you mixed, we run the gambit. I happen to be one of those ones that look like I'm Hispanic. I was as red as, I don't know, let's say the red in the Redskins logo. I was pouring sweat, and they were like, all right, like, yeah, come in. And that's how I met the CEO of this company. And this woman who is their VP of marketing, who was also pregnant at the time. Like, I was like, this is just a comedy of errors right here. And then I had to put on this costume, which it wasn't super bad because it was like just a sheet that went over the shoulders. It was the walker. The kicker was it was a latex horse mask, like one of those ones that you just like buy at a costume store and pull on, and then the eye holes are in the nose. It was a latex horse mask for somebody whose head is about half the size of mine. So I had to pull this thing on. I couldn't see. As I was going out, I walked into the side of the ring, which I heard the crowd laugh at. The sad part is I know I was trying to look old and feeble and like I didn't know where I was going. I actually could not see where I was going, and it was this latex mask, and there was all the sweat, and it was all nasty. Needless to say, I did not win that day. But had I not agreed to go through all of that, this person who has a 6-inch gash in the knee where the EMTs at the park literally had to cut away her jeans, and I'm pretty sure you could see bone, would not have left the park otherwise. That's the dedication of their fan base. That, to me, if it was if it's HasCon, if we ever get another one. If I've got that same situation, no, I'm going to the hospital. I don't care about the goddamn friggin' Transformer. These people, super passionate, super dedicated. I never want to go through that experience again, but I got there, I helped out as much as I could. I got a laugh out of the crowd. Hey, there's a crowd of like 5,000 people, and I got a laugh out of them because I couldn't see where I was going. But hey, you know what? It worked for the character, and there we go.
Ending it on a high note. All right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not
complaining. And I do really hope that we get another HasCon here, because that was fun. That was
fun.
Much fun.
I will admit, I like being. It's kind of weird because there's only been one HasCon, so from a certain standpoint, I bought my Titans Return RC at HasCon. Granted, there are probably a few thousand people that can say that, but it's not every Transformer collector that can say that. I think it's kind of cool.
Yeah. Yep. And you got like the I just went ham on the exclusives there. So as far as Transformers go, I got the Revolutions box set, which was technically SDCC.
Yep.
I got the more accurately painted Voyager Last Night Prime. I got the RC. I got the what was it? I got the power bank, the Optimus Prime power bank.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
I bought.
You did not get the skate park Optimus Prime. Which version of Prime?
Yes, I did. Remember?
No, you didn't get it at HasCon.
Yes, I did.
I thought you were supposed to get. Oh, that's right. You got it from the Magic guys. Was it that you ran into after?
So this is kind of a fun story, Wade, that you guys haven't heard before. So I made friends with a bartender there. At the.
Gotta go back before that though. So when you got there, I think Andy and Dwayne were there, and wasn't Andy supposed to? Andy ended up getting the the Primitive Prime. I think it was right. It was Primitive.
Yeah.
And you were supposed to buy it from him.
I was thinking about buying it from him. I never gave him I never said, "Oh yeah, I'm definitely gonna buy it." I said, "I'll think about it, but if you sell it before I give you an answer, then it's no big whoop."
So what happens at that point is, now HasCon was in Rhode Island, so it was about a 3-hour drive. I wanted to be there at about or just after 7 o'clock. So I, very uncharacteristically of me, woke up my family about 4:30 in the morning. When I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning, I had a message from the guy that was supposed to be selling this Primitive Prime to Nate that was time-stamped for like 2:30 in the morning, that he's like, "Hey, the deal with Nate fell through. This is the price with tax involved." And I was like, "Oh, I didn't even know that I was going to get that. I wasn't really thinking about that, but yeah, I'll take that." And Andy, who was the guy, responded to me instantly when I sent that message at 4 o'clock in the morning. I don't know that he slept, but that's how I ended up getting that particular piece. And Nate, you got it for way less money than I did.
So this is where my portion of the story kind of takes over. Made friends with the bartender there, and because what else do you do after hours of a toy convention than just go down to the bar and drink? It's during that night I had drinks with one of the G.I. Joe designers. I had just so many people. I met at the bar there. So it was the last night of the convention. It had just finished up. I had gotten in there. Let's see, the bar closed at 11. I think I got there at about 10 of 11 to grab a drink. And so this girl made my drink and said, "Hey, just those are some people from the convention. Go make friends." And I was like, "Yeah, okay." And they were guys who worked on the Magic the Gathering team. Just really, they were awesome. So they said, just give it to us as blunt as possible. Tell us how you liked the convention. I told them the good, the bad, what I enjoyed, what I thought they could, what I personally thought from going to other conventions could be improved upon. I don't run shows, so honestly, what the fuck do I know? And we got on the topic of Transformers, and because that's what I was there for. And at the end of it, one of the guys said, "So did you get that skateboarding Prime?" And I said, "No, I didn't. It was one of the things that I was kind of on the fence of getting, and maybe one day." And the guy just said, "Do you care about box condition?" And I said, "Nah. I mean, it's a toy. I'm gonna play with it anyway." And he just then started just clapping his hands and said, "I love that." So he said, "Wait here for 5 minutes." So I waited. He went, I'm guessing, back to his room and brought out one of those primitive primes that was just absolutely crushed to shit. But when you open the view flap there, it was perfectly fine inside. And he said, "Take it." And that's how I got my primitive prime.
You conveniently left out the part where you went back to his room with him to work out the arrangements to get that. Yeah, you told me to wait here for 5 minutes. You didn't tell me to.
They paid, just not.
What a lovely tea party.
Yep. I mean, luckily he had it. Luckily I had my travel size KY with me. So.
Do you want one of those primitive primes? I would do anything for one. Anything. That's how they put it.
So yeah, I mean that was fun, but there was just it just all weekend was great. The worst thing about that weekend was the VIP dinner for people who bought the add-on, the VIP Transformers dinner add-on. It was terrible. Not only did myself and a bunch of other people get food poisoning from it, there were a bunch of promises made that were never fulfilled. And it, I got lucky when signing up because there was a coupon code that, they ended early and they weren't supposed to. So I got it. It just, there was a lot of stuff in there that was a mess initially, but the vast majority of the show was a great time, and hanging out with everybody there was
I have to agree. I think that for me there was almost two different ways, and I want to say that it's probably, so to circle back, it's probably very similar to Breyer Fest in that you have two groups of people, right? You had one who were the collectors. I think if you went to HasCon and you were a hardcore collector, right? Because we were all a part of that group at one point. I know the three of you guys are. That's where you met. I was a part of that group until I got off of Facebook. So you have the hardcore collectors who, from a collector's standpoint, was HasCon spectacular and great. No, it was okay. From a perspective of a guy who went there with his family, because I took my son and I took my wife there, because by that point she friggin' owed me for 2 Breyer Fests. Actually, no, she owed me for 3 Breyer Fests at that point. There was something there for every member of my family. My wife got to meet the creator of My Little Pony. My son and I met Peter Cullen and Frank Welker. We were able to check out the Marvel Legends stuff, the Star Wars Black Series stuff. He was able to check out the Nerf and the what's the Japanese anime with the spinny tops?
Beyblade.
Yes, there we go. He was able to check out the Beyblade stuff.
I got to see Stan Lee in his final East Coast appearance.
Exactly, right? You got to see, if you were a Boston sports fan, I know BTW Sports is not in the B, the T, or the W. But if you were a sports fan, you got to meet guys like David Ortiz. You got another one of the Patriots wide receivers who showed up because Edelman had a concussion that week, or Welker had a concussion that week. Somebody had a concussion that week.
And James White showed up too.
Exactly. And it was just, and even though there were issues with the scheduling and getting people through and the demand, I mean, hell, we even got a free, well, quote unquote free, you paid for the ticket, but we got a free ticket by Flow Rider. And you know what? I will 100% say the only reason I went to that Flow Rider concert, that free Flow Rider concert, was because my wife was absolutely adamant that she wanted to go because she liked Flow Rider's music. I did not like Flow Rider's music. My son, that was his very first concert. He was like, this is way too loud, because I think one of the things that you're not prepared for when you go to your first concert is how loud it is. He was in tears for the first part of the concert. By the end of that show, friggin' Flow Rider had such a stage presence and such a charisma, to harken it back, much like The Rock or Elias. He got everybody in. My son was standing on the chair. He was all into it. I was into it. My wife, who had been to it from the jump, was obviously into it. Like, it was from a I brought my family there experience.
And the fact that he was able to take the music that he sings and make this such an amazingly family-friendly show.
Well,
is what I'm just talking about. I mean, no, the music itself is not. The music itself is not. But the way that he would, bring up kids on stage and everyone knew the words and shit like that. So, he wasn't patronizing anyone. And it was just an impressive show that
it really was. All the credit in the world to him. He is one hell of a showman. They talk about people who are showmen. Rob Zombie comes to mind. I don't know if you've ever seen Rob Zombie perform. Rob Zombie
saw him on Raw perform once.
Entertaining you.
If you guys get the chance, Slipknot does the best live show I've ever seen in my entire life.
Oh, I can only imagine.
You know what's funny?
Tool's good, but Slipknot was 10 times, like, as far as a show goes, Slipknot was way better to watch as a show. Man.
I'd go see a Tool show, but I mean, the nosebleeds are already like $150. Like
the lead singer of Tool, lead singer
wasn't that expensive back then.
The lead singer of Tool does not like to be at the front of the band. He does not like to be the center of attention. So he, when I went, where they do a lot of summer concerts here, there's like a half bowl. There's the stage, half bowl, and then there's a giant lawn hill. So you can just get lawn seats for $60-$70, or you can get down close. Most people you bring a blanket, and you sit on this lawn, and you're still I'll say 150 feet from the people. It was a great show, but it's just funny because Maynard was like this shadow in the back. Like, where's the lead singer? He's back there.
I've seen, so Nate, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's Mansfield, Massachusetts. Is it the Comcast Center now or whatever it is?
Yeah, it was Great Woods, then it was Tweeter Center, then it was now it's the Xfinity Center.
There we go. So I've been to two Ozfests there, and it's set up very much like that. Is that there's this giant lawn section. So I've been to a couple Ozfests there. The best band that I've ever seen live, and it may be because of the venue. There's a venue up here called Hampton Beach Casino.
Yep.
Clearly, it's on Hampton Beach. It's not an actual casino at this point, but it's a very small, intimate venue. And I have to say, the best band that I've ever seen there was Seven Dust. And they were friggin' incredible. But I've also seen at the SNHU Arena. It used to be the Verizon Wireless Arena here in Manchester. Disturbed. Goddamn, they put on
a hell of a show.
Usher puts on a great concert.
I haven't seen Usher yet. I keep trying to. My wife and I are planning at some point, because my wife and I musically don't agree on much, but one of the things that we do agree on is Bruno Mars. So we're trying to figure out at some point maybe going to Bruno Mars.
I feel like
that's going to be a Gillette show.
And I'd be fine with that, but it's going to be fucking awesome.
I've gone to see, you all probably know by now, my favorite band is Breaking Benjamin. I've seen them 7 times now. And one of the best shows that I was at was, as Lance said, it was an acoustic show they did at the Hampton Beach Casino. And it's just a big ballroom, and it was all standing room. And Ben, the lead singer, he was just cool as shit, because there was probably only a few hundred people there, maybe 3 if you're lucky in that venue. And he's just like, man, this is fucking awesome. We're just all hanging out, listening to music, and isn't that fucking awesome? And it was great.
I'm jealous that you got an acoustic performance. When Seven Dust did it, they did not go acoustic, so it was their regular setup. And
you can easily blow out that. Yeah,
I could not hear for a minimum 4 days after that.
Yeah. If you I heard the same thing about when Godsmack did their 3 shows there, because they didn't do anything unplugged. They just went full bore. And
it's funny you say so, like an intimate show like that. An ex-girlfriend took me to see, she wanted to go years and years ago. The local zoo in Toledo, Ohio has a band shell, and we went and saw at the zoo at night. So there's fucking lions roaring in the distance and all sorts of crazy zoo animal noises. Finger 11 and 3 Doors Down.
Oh gosh.
It's just such a random.
Nate, have you ever been to the Palladium in Worcester?
I know of it. I haven't been there myself, but I'm not in any hurry to go.
So it's like an old theater. It's not that huge. But we went and saw, or me and a couple of buddies went and saw the Snowcore tour there one year, and that was headlined by Seether and Shinedown. And I think Flyleaf was one of the opening acts as well. I wasn't a big fan of Flyleaf because in practice, so I understand the concept that they did, but in practice their lead singer's voice was drowned out by the guitar, which is unlike Hailstorm, who I also saw at Hampton Beach Ballroom, where Lizzie Hale's voice hits you like a friggin' ton of bricks.
Evanescence, same way. I've seen her live.
I haven't seen them live. Amy Lee from Evanescence.
Yep.
She's going to be one of those. It's it doesn't matter how old she gets. She's always going to be super hot to me.
I mean, I don't think that has any bearing on her singing ability, but hey,
no,
whatever.
I'm just saying. it's just one of those crushes I'm gonna have forever.
Yeah, no, I remember one of my crushes to this day, if we're just talking about regular crushes, would be Shirley Manson from Garbage. That was, around the time that I was blossoming from a boy into a man. Not that I've ever really grown up, because I still collect toys.
That's half the reason. That's why we're doing this podcast.
Anybody else ever go to the? Anybody else go? Years ago, was a tour called the Project Revolution Tour. Anybody
I
heard
remember
that?
the name. I haven't been to it, but I remember the name.
The last 3 acts. So it was mostly like, it was rap metal days. It was like,
Korn,
it was right in the heyday. But the last 3 acts were Snoop Dogg, then Korn, and then Linkin Park. And like Jonathan Davis and Chester singing like Crawling. Like Jonathan Davis came out and did half the Linkin Park set with Chester. And it was one of those just awesome. And it's funny watching all these metalheads sing every line to every Snoop Dogg song.
That's amazing. That reminds me of when Linkin Park and Jay-Z came out with that Hybrid album that they did.
Oh, I still listen to that, dude. I still bang the shit out of that.
I do too. It's great.
The concert, I watched because the CD came with the concert DVD, and the concert's great. The Linkin Park guys were there, like they're labeling all the knobs. They're like, turn down the suck. They're like, Jay-Z's coming. We can't suck. Turn down the suck.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the only concert tours that I've been on, I've been to 3 Warp tours. And there was a brief period where I was into the whole kind of pop punk thing, but it was kind of cool because I got to see a bunch of like really nostalgic acts for me. Yellow Card, Newfound Glory, Sum 41.
Ooh, showing your age right there, Nate. Jesus.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's fun.
What about you, Dustin?
I don't think we've heard from Dustin in like 3 hours.
Well, no, it's just like we're in the whole concert, music stuff. Like, give us some of your highlights.
Iron Maiden. Definitely. You said Rob Zombie earlier. He was really good. Mudvayne. Way back. Suffocation was fucking awesome. But I'm a big death metal guy, so.
That works for me.
Shadows Fall is really good. I've seen Manson at some ballroom in Grand Rapids, tiny little place. It was really good.
Yeah, I've seen in Grand Rapids a band called the Bullet with the Name's their big hit.
Non-point.
Non-point. Yes.
Me and my wife went last summer to Grand Rapids to the intersection, and we saw Static X, Devil Driver, Dope, and Wednesday 13 and Raven Black, and that was a fucking cool ass show.
What was your first concert, Dustin?
Ozfest 2006.
That was your very first concert?
That was my very first concert. I saw Rob Zombie and, like I said, Shadows Fall, Mudvayne, Black Label Society, Iron Maiden, Killswitch Engage.
It's a hell of a lineup.
ASC.
What about you guys? What was your guys' first concerts? And I'll tell you mine.
Lance, go ahead.
You go ahead, because you probably remember better than I do. I'm literally Googling it right now because I know when
Okay,
Because
so
it was. You go.
so I guess so technically my very first concert, because my dad used to co-own a chain of instrument stores here in the Northeast, called Daddy's Junkie Music Stores, and they were the the third biggest retailer in the nation, for instruments. So a lot of Boston acts in like the Boston Commons, he would get tickets to when they'd hold shows. So my very first, when I was probably, I want to say 6, was the Everly Brothers.
Yeah.
And got to see them. Got to see Diana Ross. The Turtles. So a lot of older acts. Those were like my very first concerts. The first one that I went and got tickets to for myself was Breaking Benjamin, and my first concert to them wasn't until 2015. So there was a long stretch where I didn't go to concerts and stuff like that. And after my friends had introduced me to Breaking Benjamin back in high school, probably around 2004, 2005. It wasn't until another 10 years after I started listening to them that I finally saw them for the first time, and then that just started my whole, I've been to them 7 times now.
Awesome. All right, Lance, what you got?
All right. My first concert, so I had graduated high school, so for a high school graduation present, and that was in 2002, my parents got me tickets to Ozfest. So the main stage at Ozfest, of course, you have Ozzy, which was interesting. I think that was kind of one of his low periods, not to say that like there were a bunch of older folks there that enjoyed it, but it was Ozzy, System of a Down, Rob Zombie, POD, Drowning Pool, Edema, Black Label Society for the main stage. On the second stage, we had Down, Hatebreed, Masuga, Soil Flaw, Third Strike, Pulse Ultra, Il Nino, Andrew WK, Glassjaw, The Used, OTEP, Lost Prophets, The Apex Theory, Neurotica, Chevelle, Mushroom Head, and Seether.
I'd like to go see that show today. Like even today, I'd still rock the hell out of that show.
Chevelle's a good show.
Are 2 of my bands that I really want to go see.
Who's that?
Mushroomhead and Meshuggah are 2 bands I haven't seen yet that I really want to see. Meshuggah is one of my most favorite bands ever.
Man, Mushroomhead played. Go ahead, Wayne.
Go ahead. The first time I got punched in the mouth at a mosh pit was during a Hatebreed show. So
that sounds about right.
Mushroomhead played this little place up here in Manchester called Jewel Nightclub. Back when this guy, I forget his last name. I know his first name was Bernie, and he owns the New England Concert Group, and so he now does a couple of small venues. But yeah, this you want to talk about intimate shows, like Jewel was the place to go. Like he'd get tons of national acts in there, and he got Mushroomhead in there, and man, that was pretty damn cool.
Another band I want to go see, Ginger, as soon as I get a chance to, because that's probably one of the best bands going right now.
You guys go see Kid Rock? He's local. He's local here, so he always does great shows. But talk about a great stage show, Kid Rock. Years ago, now he's kind of slowed down. But
it's funny. I've never seen Kid Rock. After that 2002 concert, the next one that I went to was 2005, and that was another Ozfest. But yeah, I've never seen Kid Rock.
Yeah, Kid Rock and Eminem being from near Detroit, Kid Rock and Eminem always come represent. So
Yeah.
But my first concert was at the Michigan State Fair with my parents, and it was Chuck Berry and Little Richard.
Hell yeah.
Ooh.
So I had to be 8 or 9 years old with fucking Chuck Berry and Little Richard. Like, I've always loved that music, and my mom found it. And then that was a fair concert, but the first concert my aunt took me, we got tickets, was Kiss and Ted Nugent. Like, so those are interchangeable depending on your definition of a concert.
Yeah. And the more I think about it, like, so when I was, I think, 15, 16, might have been 16, I was deemed the adult presence when taking my cousin and his friend to a show, and we went.
Who made that mistake?
Yeah, I know, right? I guess my aunt, technically.
Your aunt's like, this fucking nerd's not going to get in any trouble.
Yeah,
Ouch.
pretty much. So my cousin, his friend, and myself went to see the Raconteurs at the Blue Hills Pavilion down in Boston, by the waterfront there. That was a good show. I mean, Jack White he's
at the half shell.
Yeah.
I saw Stained there one year. So Stained was the headliner. That show was amazing.
Unfortunately, Jack didn't get to do, like, the whole band didn't get to do a lot of their crowd interaction stuff that they usually do, because that area in Boston has a very strict noise ordinance. So, like, all that stuff has to be over at a very specific time, or it's a massive fine to the band. So they just got in, played, and got out, essentially. But still a good show.
I'm pretty sure when I went, Stained gave 0 Fs about that noise ordinance.
Probably.
They came out for their encore, and the last song that they played was Mud Shovel, which, of course, everybody just lost their friggin' minds to. That was one of the few shows generally we get, or when I used to go with the group of guys that I used to go to concerts with, we got GA, general admission, but that was one of the few shows where we had seats, and it was really, really fun, that show, and it sticks out in my mind for this one particular reason. In front of us, there were 3 of us at the time, but in front of us, going from left to right, there was a girl, her boyfriend, and this guy that she either used to know or used to date or had some kind of relationship with previously. And he showed up, like, obviously she was not expecting him. He hit on this girl all night long, trying to hit on her through her boyfriend, mind you, and it was just phenomenal. And he started, like, picking up on things other people were saying and then talking shit about them. So we went on this entire diatribe where one of the guys that I was with had this T-shirt on, and it said, "Stop clubbing, comma, baby seals." So on the front of the shirt, that's what it said at the top, and then it had seals, baby seals dancing on a disco floor, and it was fantastic. And we went on this whole diatribe about that T-shirt and watched him as he heard it, picked up on it, and then tried to talk shit about us to this girl through her boyfriend in an effort to, I presumably, hook up with her or getting good with her. It was fan-friggin-tastic.
He bought that shirt off of tshirthell.com. Disclaimer, yeah, there's some pretty awful stuff on that website, but tshirthell.com, I remember seeing it.
I had never seen it before. I don't know where he got it. I know that he used to be a DJ He was big into metal. He was kind of like that punk slash goth in high school back in the day. So he had those big bell bottom esque jinkos and the metal chain wallet and all that great stuff. But oh god, that was an interesting night. We fucked with that guy without mercy. And he never picked up that we were screwing with him. And this poor girl who's there with her boyfriend trying to ignore this guy, but he just kept going on. It was a sight to behold.
So Dustin, I'm checking out this link that you just posted. I'm really into her voice. Like that's, I dig this. I'm gonna have to check out more from them.
Yeah, dude, they're really good.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to listen to that one after the show's going. I'm using. If I start playing it now, then everything will go over the mic. And I've been accused of, I guess, being too loud sometimes.
Once or twice. So, Lance, you brought us into this episode. You want to take us out?
Well, all right. Sounds good. So thank you very much for listening. This has been the BTW Podcast with Nate Gleason.
See ya.
Wade Fry.
See ya.
And Dustin Hayward.
Adios.
And myself, Lance Johnson. And as always, since we are on YouTube, Nate asks you to worship at the altar of the YouTube gods. Please give us a like, a share, and a subscribe, and we will see you next week.